Thanks very much, everyone. It's now my great pleasure to introduce a man that you well know and well love, the leader of the Australian Greens, Senator Bob Brown.
Well, it's just so wonderful to be here. I'd like to begin also by acknowledging the Indigenous people and to have a good word for George Bush. Because yesterday he acknowledged the Indigenous people of Tibet with a directness in the Congress that failed John Howard and failed Kevin Rudd when the Dalai Lama was in Canberra earlier this year, and it was left to the rest of us to put on the reception he should have gotten. Where is the acknowledgement of compassion, of peaceableness, of decency? Where was it from our leaders on that occasion? We've just heard Larissa presenting herself as the prospective first Greens senator for Queensland at this coming election. What a brilliant young performer she is. I know her well enough to say, not just intelligent, but has enormous integrity. And what a great advocate for Queensland would Larissa Waters, as senator, be in Canberra. What a great asset for this nation. And you know, Queensland is a litmus test for the Senate. I'll come back to it. First of all, I want to talk about those $34 billion tax cuts from the Howard government, which mark it out as being unable to handle this nation's economy. Not the tough, steady hand on the tiller, but the hand that says, if we're threatened politically, we'll abandon good economic management to try and buy the vote of the Australian people. I don't think it'll work. And I'll tell you why it won't. And the callers to radio and the letter writers have, by a great majority, been backing the Greens' position on this. That money ought to be going to nation building. It should be going to our public school system, where $5 billion is needed in spending to bring us up to the top 10 in the OECD. Instead of neglecting the public system to which 70% of Australian kids go, John Howard, Peter Costello, that money should be going to education to skill this nation for its future. You failed them. The public hospital system. Besides that money, leave the tax cuts alone for other things. We say take the $3.5 billion currently wastefully taken out of health funds and put into the private health system through the private rebate scheme. We now know it's done nothing to take the pressure of public hospitals around Australia, including here in Queensland. Put that back into the public hospital system so that rural and regional Australia, as well as metropolitan Australia, has the money to put back the beds, to skill the nursing and medical professionals, and to equip our hospital system as it should be equipped. The money is there. The political will is missing because the Howard government and the Rudd alternative looks too close to this, continue to want to take money from the taxpayer and put it into the private health and medical system at the expense of the public. We say, let's get the balance back. And what about pensioners? The 2 million forgotten Australians. The battlers who've battled all their life for this nation, who John Howard has forgotten. Just 2 months ago, the Greens moved a motion in the Senate to have the pension raised by a measly $30 a week, to help pensioners meet the soaring costs of food, of rent, of public transport. of health. You know, we haven't even got a dental system that looks at... John Howard abolished it for pensioners. There's 650,000 people on dental waiting lists in Australia. You don't have to be a doctor like me to know that that means you're going to get an onflow of illnesses which puts further strain on the public health system. Doesn't help a healthier Australia, it makes it an unhealthier Australia. 3.5 billion can come out of that private health system to go into the hospitals of Australia. Well, we take the 3.5 billion that's going to the tax cuts for people on over $70,000 a year, including Mr Howard and Mr Rudd, and put it into the pensioners. And when we moved for that, when we moved for a $30 a week increase in the pension in the Senate, Howard's coalition voted it down and Rudd Labor voted it down. It was the Greens there standing for the 2 million senior Australians who've given to this country and deserve a little bit back. 1/10 of the tax cuts, John Howard. 1/10 of the tax cuts. Can't you give that? Look, the pensioners don't complain. They're not out on the streets. But I know from the ones who've spoken with me, who've sent me their little budgets for the week, they can't go out to the pictures. That's a luxury they can't afford. They can't buy gifts for family because the rents have gone up. They've stayed still, indexed to the cost of living since 1993, while politicians' salaries have gone up 80% above. Is that fair, John Howard? Is that fair, Kevin Rudd? No, it is not. And then we come to climate change. How about following the Greens policy, leading this nation, which would put insulation back into every household in Australia, all 7 million of them, and a hot water system, solar hot water system on the roof, saving 10% of the greenhouse gases going into the atmosphere from this nation. And it's cost neutral at the end of the day, because the fall in power bills means that a bit of that garner sheet back to the government pays for the cost of installation up front. That's sensible nation building, green style. Labor won't match it. The government's been asleep for the last 12 years and can't match it. They want to build a pulp mill. Can you believe it? Not where it should be, not using world's best environmental practice, but in the beautiful Tamar Valley. And a threat is this magnificent Tasmanian wedgetail, one of the 6 largest eagles on the face of the planet. 2.2 metres in wingspan. I can't reach that far. Its chances of going to extinction are 65% as things stand. Cut the forest, as is targeted for the pulp mill, that becomes a 99% chance of extinction. What price? On Australia's grand wildlife, Mr Howard. What price, Mr Rudd? 0. You don't count them in at all.